Welcome to Soul Therapy with Chelle. I am Chelle Griffin and I practice as a soul doula. I combine therapeutic knowledge and lived experience with a healthy dose of spiritual exploration. Feel welcome to join me as we learn and grow together, exploring the magic and wonderment of experiencing life on earth as a spiritual being. Welcome to part 2 of my conversation with Carly Evans, where we discuss all things energy, trauma, our nervous systems, and what's wrong in the world, and our passions in how to make things balanced and harmonious. So enjoy the show. Let's take a breath.
Serious conversation today.
Oh, this is brilliant. I love these kind of conversations. They fill my cup as someone who has worked with trauma victims for a lot of my adulthood. It's wonderful to be in the company of someone who's like-minded in the change that our world needs to see. I love hearing about big change makers out there that are predominantly women, but yes, we definitely need more men who are in seats of power to also embrace and make change, because there's just not enough of it. And whilst things are shifting, it's just not fast enough. I know so many great men, but I also I know some of them don't feel comfortable speaking up because there's other men around that belittle and call them a pussy or, make light of it. And they're not up for that kind of confrontation. So then that aggressiveness gets redirected. And does it then go home and perpetrate? It's
because by staying silent, you're, kind of borderline colluding with people, aren't you? Just
absolutely.
letting them know what they're saying is okay with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think men have been shamed into expressing themselves authentically, that they have been conditioned to believe that they need to shut up and get on with it, not have confrontations, just provide. And there's that lack of connection that happens as a result. And if we all just had open conversations, heartfelt conversations, where we could really all just sit and listen and acknowledge without coming in with the buts, and really be together and understand different perspectives, and then come to a place of, okay, well, confrontation doesn't have to be scary. It can just be a conversation.
Absolutely.
Imagine that world.
Yeah. And going back to that connection aspect as well, like it's not just about connecting as a couple, but connecting to yourself. Not just the woman connecting to herself, but the guy doing that as well.
Yeah.
I had a Reiki client last night, or I call it an energy treatment because it's more than just Reiki, but not to say Reiki is just Reiki, but, there's a few different things that I use in terms of tools and frequencies. And I had a new energy client last night, a male that I haven't connected with before. And he has some really interesting stuff coming up. And his intention for this session was to connect to himself. And he's 50 now, and he's spent his entire life feeling lost and not finding the thing that helps him connect to himself. And I think the big myth is that there's just one thing that helps you with that for a start, So it's really about going on a personal development journey, and it's about the journey. It's not about that place that you end up in. Life is a whole journey of getting to know yourself. I really only felt like I had really, truly felt like I really knew myself when I hit my 40s. And then, I'm going to be 44 next month, and now perimenopause symptoms are kicking in, and now that's all changing again, right? I've got to get to re-know myself. So life is a whole journey at all those different milestones of figuring out who you are at each different stage of life, whether you're in a relationship, not in a relationship, or a parent to someone or not, when your parents pass on, and all those different life stages. So it's so important for each person in the relationship to really, truly know themselves on a deep level, because otherwise and I've never believed in this whole two halves make a whole kind of thing. I believe make yourself a whole person and meet a whole person. and then become the best version of yourselves together. Like my partner and I truly bring out the best in each other. And this is the relationship I've ever had where that, so, yeah, so it's really about a journey of getting to know yourself so, the saying, two halves making a whole. I've never believed in that. I believe you should make yourself a whole person and meet another whole person. And then that makes an amazing relationship. And I really feel like that's where I'm at with my fiance. He's a really amazing, incredible whole human. And I've worked for so many years, been in personal development for about 25 years now, where I've really got myself to that space where I feel like I'm a whole person. Obviously, I've still got work to do. We're all a work in progress, constantly working on myself. But I really feel like we're two whole people coming together. And I think that makes for the best relationship when you're bringing out the best in each other. And I see so many couples just bringing out the worst in each other. So when you don't know yourself and you're full of these things that need healing, and then you're just triggering the hell out of each other, you're just going to, feel bad in that relationship, bring out the worst in each other and blame the other person for it and take no accountability for the fact that actually, if you bothered to do the work on yourself and really get to know yourself and connect to yourself, then you would take full ownership of everything that shows up in your life. That makes just a better relationship overall.
That's something when I work with couples, that it's that you're not coming together as 100% and each putting in 50%. You're both coming together as equally 100% each and putting in 100% effort each. And I think that's where men can be different to women, because with women we've had physical cycles throughout our life that instigate change and almost an initiation in exploring who we are and yearning to know ourselves and peel away the layers and work through that, seeking meaning. And I don't think men go through those same cycles. And I feel that that's why we do get that condition of midlife crisis in men, that they reach a point going, holy shit, my life's almost over. And I've got all this physical stuff to show for it and tangible success, but my heart is empty. I don't know, what's it all for? I've been working 60, 70 hours a week every week for 20, 30 years, and I don't know my kids the way my partner knows them. My mates I see for a beer on a Friday or a walk around the golf course, but I don't actually know what's going on in their lives. And I think there's this revelation that kind of hits them like a ton of bricks, and they're not equipped to know how to deal with that. They've never been taught how to identify their feelings, how to sit with big emotions, how to manage anger, how to, care for their bodies and get out in nature. And they exercise because they should. They have to be fit, not because they want to feel healthy and they want to have clarity or balance and harmony. They operate as a machine, whereas we, as women, have tended to, obviously with that more feminine energy aspect, seek more meaning and purpose in how we're operating, I guess.
Absolutely. And, when you think about ancient cultures, like ancient Egypt would have different challenges that people in general, I think, would have to go through to overcome certain fears that were related to specific chakras, right? Men or boys in ancient Greece would, once they kind of were in that process of becoming a man, would have certain challenges that they would have to face to be initiated into becoming a man. What exists like that for guys now? Nothing really. So they've kind of lost that sense of finding that self-awareness through those hard things. And we're not doing the hard things anymore even through school. We're getting participation certificates and stuff. It's not about being a winner or a loser. It's about it's about everyone gets a fair go. And I understand the reasons for that, but it's kind of breeding a different kind of adult now. And I think there's a lot that's being lost. So we are, we need to be in a space where kids are being taught to regulate their emotions, and that negative emotions are okay. Society and adverts are all about, if you feel this way, pop this pill, buy these trainers, you'll feel better. And it's not about that. It's about knowing that if I feel angry, that's okay. There's a reason for that. If I feel upset, I've got to explore the reason for that. I've got to look at my boundaries. I've got to do all those things and really go within, instead of just trying to always avoid those negative feelings and think that you're always supposed to feel good.
Yeah. We have, as a society, been raised to believe that any uncomfortable emotion is a no-go, a negative. You squash that down and you just pretend it's not happening. If we see a child having a tantrum in public, the mother goes into a total shame spiral because, she feels like everyone's looking at her and judging her parenting and she can't control her child. It's like, but what if you just sit down on the ground next to your child and check out what's going on for them? It could be the bright lights of the shopping centre. They've been out for 2 hours being dragged around a grocery store because, dad's working and mum's having to take them everywhere to do. Like, it's finding that balance, coming back to balance and communication, connection, and identifying that sense of self, and how, if we put the oxygen mask on ourselves first and support ourselves, then we have the capacity to sit with the others who might have an empty cup and need support in refilling that. Whereas if we all continue on depleted and burnt out and blaming everyone around us for that, nothing's going to shift, is it? Wow.
We've got a few different things, haven't we?
We have. We've gone everywhere today. Oh, it's so lovely to have you here, Carly. I was going through your getting to know me, and you had some different lines in there, and there was one that stood out about you identified in a past life that you were training to be a nun. I just thought that would be a really fun way to wrap up what has been a big and an intense conversation. Tell me more about, did you experience a past life regression, or did you see a psychic? What?
No, this was quite a few years ago now, and I've done a fair amount of work around past life stuff since then. But this was one of the early kind of explorations, and this was just during a psychic reading. And she said to me, and it's funny because I've always said, I could never be a nun. She said that, she reflected that back to me. I thought, how do you know that? She said, well, you were a nun in training in a past life, and you were also in charge of gardening. You don't like gardening very much these days, do you? I said, no, not at all. Like, it just feels like, not something that is fun for me to do. And she said, well, you were in charge of the gardening in that lifetime, and you were more often found leaning on the rake rather than using it. And I thought, yeah, that was me. And she also said that the abbess who was training me, I drove her mad because I was way too curious. I had way too many questions, which is exactly who I am now as well, which is why I could never be a nun. And she said that even though I drove her mad because of my curiosity, she's come back in this lifetime to be a spirit guide of mine, because she actually is almost envious of the fact of how curious I am, and that I will go off and explore that curiosity and try and find answers to questions, whereas she wasn't allowed to, wasn't able to in that lifetime. So it was all about just having to control things and keep everyone safe, right? And so she came back as one of my spirit guides to just kind of follow me around and my curiosity. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's cool. When I was in year 3, I was moved to a Catholic primary school, and my teacher was a nun. And for that year, I wanted to be a nun when I grew up. And I would collect the little Bible cards, like, of all the angels, and I can't even remember all the terminology now. And I just was fascinated. And then I went into year 4, and I had a male teacher. I was like, I think I just want to be a teacher, not a nun. I think I had my first crush. I wonder if he's still around. He was such a delight. He was the sweetest man, which is a beautiful way to end this conversation, that he was a gorgeous influence. So to all the wonderful males out there,
We appreciate you.
We do. We see you, acknowledge you, and we thank you for having our backs and working with us on this crusade.
This
Thank you
crazy
so
thing.
much for showing up today. I know it took us a bit. We've both had some stop starts trying to get together, but we were obviously meant to, and I'm really appreciative of having you here, Carly. So, Carly, how can we find you? How can our listeners track you down?
So my website is coachcarly.com. I'm on Facebook as Coach Carly, and then my energy side of things is Phoenix Transformation on Facebook as well. And then on Instagram, I'm at Coach Carly Evans. Those are the best ways to reach me. If you go on my Coach Carly bio, there's a Linktree link with a bunch of freebies that you can sign up for on relationships, on self-love and self-worth, on money and abundance. There's loads of cool freebies in there. So get stuck into those.
That's awesome. Thank you so much again, Carly. Thank you for showing up for yourself by listening to Soul Therapy with Chelle. Feel welcome to subscribe to my podcast, share the pod with your friends, family, colleagues, and neighbours. And please, if you are willing, I would absolutely love a 5-star review to give my little pod a boost in the algorithms. For further detail on how to work with me, please visit my website, www.chellegriffin.com, or find me on the socials. I hope you'll join me on my next episode. Till then, go gently and intentionally. With care, Chelle.